Welcome back to the series Hypercar Updates, where we talk about the news, rumors, and just general topics from Hypercar and GTP. For episode 8 and beyond, I will be doing something a little bit different. In addition to the regular topics on Hypercar Updates, I will introduce 2 questions from you, the viewers, each episode. For this specific episode, I will talk about MSR's future in IMSA, the changes to Peugeot's 9x8 hypercar, including a rear wing, and could Mick Schumacher race for Alpine in 2024? And besides those topics, much more will be discussed. So without further delay, let's get into this. I would like to begin this episode by talking about Jota Sport and their 2024 plans. Jota is expected to have the number 38 car continue into 2024, but it's been revealed that they could have a second entry for next season. With the WEC axing the LMP2 class for the upcoming 2024 season, this means that Jota will not be able to race their number 28 LMP2 entry full-time. That clears up an opportunity for Jota to run a second Porsche 963 in Hypercar. It's not officially confirmed, but according to the recent articles, it's very likely to happen. Jota Sport also mentioned that they will not be competing in IMSA's GTP class, becoming the third customer entry running a Porsche 963. Hertz Team Jota is planning to stay in the WEC, and specifically the hypercar category. Will we see 2 Jota Porsches in 2024? Let me know down in the comments. Speaking of new entries, and this brings us to the topic of a new manufacturer, because Aston Martin are set to revive the Valkyrie LMH project. The British manufacturer originally intended to enter the Valkyrie as a race variant in 2021, but that project was later postponed and presumed abandoned, as Aston Martin switched gears to joining Formula 1. According to an article from Autosport.com, which I've put a link to in the description, Aston Martin are set to collaborate with Heart of Racing with this project and join as soon as 2025. This would mark Aston Martin's return to the 24 Hours of Le Mans and their debut in the top categories of the WEC and IMSA. If you would like to see more details on Aston Martin's project, I'll put a link to a video I made in the top right corner. Elsewhere, Ferrari have announced that they will not be competing at next year's Rolex 24, otherwise known as the 24 Hours of Daytona, with the 499P. This article comes from Sportscar 365, and they spoke with Ferrari's head of endurance racing, Antonello Coletta. Coletta had this to say on the subject of the 499P heading over to IMSA competition. I believe that all the 24-hour races have a different importance, attitude, and strategy. They are all different. Le Mans, Daytona, and Spa are not at the same point. After winning Le Mans, my dream is to re-win Le Mans. At the moment, it's not on our radar to go to Daytona. We will go to Daytona with the GT3, but this is another issue. The World Endurance Championship is our dream. Out of the 3 eligible manufacturers, which includes Toyota, Peugeot, and Ferrari of course, the Italian manufacturer was the most likely to enter GTP. But as Coletta mentioned when speaking with Sportscar 365, the World Endurance Championship and the 24 Hours of Le Mans is their priority. They have no plans to race at Daytona with the 499P. There is a driver change at Peugeot Sport. Gustavo Menezes will be leaving the team at the end of 2023. Menezes has been a part of the 9x8 hypercar program since Peugeot made their debut in the WEC at the 2022 6 Hours of Monza. But unfortunately, their journey together will come to a close as Menezes says farewell to Peugeot at the end of 2023. The French manufacturer has signed their reserve driver, Stoffel Vandoorne, to drive the number 94 car along with Loic Duval and Nico Muller in 2024. The Belgian driver already has experience driving the 9x8, when he stepped in for Muller at the 6 Hours of Fuji. Vandoorne has quite the reputation as well as a racing driver, having been a champion of Formula E with Mercedes and driven in Formula 1 with the McLaren F1 team. Van Dorn also has experience in endurance racing, having stood on the overall 24 Hours of Le Mans podium in 2019, driving the number 11 SMP racing car to third position. With Van Dorn set for a 2024 drive, the question now is, will Gustavo Menezes also land a drive in the hypercar category? Okay, it's finally time to talk about Meyer Shank Racing. Because are the rumors true? Will MSR and Acura be parting ways? And what is MSR's future in IMSA? Since the data manipulation at the Rolex 24, the relationship between Acura and MSR has grown adrift. And with one of their two full-time drivers, Tom Blomqvist, switching over to MSR's IndyCar team, it begs the question, is Meyer Shank Racing's future in IMSA in doubt? In an interview with Motorsport.com, Michael Shank, the owner of MSR, had this to say on MSR's future in IMSA. "We don't know yet. We'll know probably in 4 to 5 weeks where we sit on that. This is my 20th year as a team owner in the Rolex 24 at Daytona. We've won it 3 times, and it was kind of the start of all of this. So we're doing everything we can to stay in it. It's coming down to the last minute, which I don't like a lot. But that's the way it is right now." Meyer Shank Racing is probably still discussing what they're going to be doing for 2024. But if they somehow split from Acura, what are MSR's options outside of that team for GTP? The only option I see is that MSR partners with Alpine and brings over the A424 LMDH over to GTP sometime in the future. Alpine already sells enough cars and is set to branch in to the US market, so they are technically eligible to race in IMSA's top category. This whole situation depends on what Meyer Shank Racing will do for 2024. Continuing the topic of the Acura ARX06, I want to switch things from Meyer Shank Racing over to Wayne Taylor Racing because they have an update on their 2024 plans. Wayne Taylor Racing currently competes in the IMSA GTP category with one entry, badged as the Konica Minolta Acura. And the team's future is looking really strong, with a second Acura added on for 2024, piloted by Jordan Taylor and Louis Delatraz. There are 2 details that I want to discuss here, one of which is that Wayne Taylor Racing has revealed the number for the second entry. The first Acura is the number 10, and now it's been confirmed that the second will be the number 40. WTR have also confirmed that they will have an active Formula 1 driver racing at the Rolex 24. I've heard the name Alexander Albon being mentioned several times, and also Kevin Magnussen. Magnussen already has experience in IMSA's top category, having raced for the Chip Ganassi Cadillac crew in 2021. And even though he has no IMSA experience, Alex Albon is quite the skilled racer. So out of these two and basically the entire Formula 1 grid, I believe that Albon will be the driver that Wayne Taylor Racing picks up for 2024. Moving on to news from Peugeot, and this has to do with the fundamental design of the 9x8 hypercar, as Peugeot are set for some changes in 2024. According to an article put out by Endurance Info, Peugeot will be making some major changes on the 9x8 hypercar, including new tires and a rear wing. Out of these changes, adding a rear wing is the most surprising to me, considering Peugeot built this car to not have a rear wing, and that's one of the reasons why Peugeot's hypercar was so fascinating to many people, because it didn't have a rear wing. It was a very unique design compared to other hypercars. Even if the French auto manufacturer add a rear wing, the car will still look very cool, but I'm interested to see how that design will incorporate with the rest of the 9x8. And this feature could help Peugeot's ongoing aerodynamic issues and allow the car to be more consistent at a variety of tracks. Let's hope that with these changes that Endurance Info has described in their article, Peugeot will be able to be very competitive next season in the WEC. In other news, it looks more than confirmed that Cadillac will stick to one full-time entry in the WEC. As of right now, Cadillac has 1 entry full-time in the WEC and 2 full-time in IMSA. Chip Ganassi Racing, who operates that entry, was initially looking to expand to 2 cars for next season. But according to an article by Endurance Info, it seems Cadillac will be sticking to 1 entry in the WEC in 2024. Earlier in 2023, it was almost but confirmed that Cadillac would have a 2nd entry in the WEC. But after the crash of the 6 hours of Spa with the number 3 car going off, that 2nd WEC chassis was actually scrapped for spare parts. Besides, Cadillac's main focus is IMSA and the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and that's exactly what they're putting their efforts into, with 2 entries full-time in IMSA and 3 expected for the 24 Hours of Le Mans once again in 2024. So while it's not officially confirmed to be happening, Cadillac looks to stay with the same set of cars for next season. Okay, so let's move on to the questions from you, the audience, on Hypercar and GTP. Out of the 2 questions, the first one comes from Ludina Le Mans, who says, is it confirmed that Mick Schumacher has an offer from Alpine to have a seat in the LMDH car for the WEC 2024 season? First off, great question, and as for the answer, well, Mick Schumacher does actually have an offer from Alpine to join the 2024 season. In an interview with motorsport.com, the boss of Alpine, Bruno Fama, had this to say on Mick Schumacher potentially joining the WEC crew in 2024. It's true that we are talking with Mick about the possibility of racing in our endurance program with the A424. It would be a good opportunity for both parties, I think. But for the time being, we are just talking, and hopefully we will organize a test soon. If Mick joined Alpine, this would not be the first time that a Schumacher raced at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. As in 1991, his father, Michael Schumacher, drove for the Mercedes Sauber team, and the C11 he was driving finished 5th overall at the 24-hour event. Alpine has quite the pool of drivers to race their A424 prototypes, but Schumacher is high up on that list to potentially join the Alpine crew, and according to the Mercedes team boss Toto Wolff, this Alpine drive would not affect Mick's reserve contract at Mercedes. I really hope that Mick gets a drive with Alpine. I think he would do well there. And this would also mean that the Schumacher name would return to the 24 Hours of Le Mans. The next and final question comes from Honcho40, who asks, one thing really on my mind, when will a car made for Hypercar spec actually make its way to IMSA? So far, the convergence has really only been GTP cars going to the WEC, which makes this a one-way deal so far. This is an interesting question, because while the LMH and LMDH prototypes race over in Hypercar, only the LMDH prototypes race over in IMSA. So where are the LMH entries? Well, as I explained in my video about LMH cars going over to IMSA, there is a rule that states that 2,500 road cars must be produced per year for a manufacturer to enter GTP. This rules out Glickenhaus, Vanwall, and Isotta Fraschini, meaning that only Ferrari, Peugeot, and Toyota can enter. Toyota Gazoo Racing has made it clear that they will not bring the GR010 over to IMSA, and as I explained earlier, Ferrari will not be bringing the 499P in 2024. Technically, the 9x8 can race in IMSA, but for what purpose? Peugeot does not sell cars in the United States, and so far they've made their intentions pretty clear that they are sticking to the WEC. The best chance for an LMH prototype to race in IMSA is going to be coming from Aston Martin. As I explained earlier in the video, they are rumored to revive the Valkyrie LMH project, and the British manufacturer is eligible to race in IMSA GTP. And Aston Martin has interest in racing. If they join the 24 Hours of Le Mans and the WEC, they will likely join IMSA as well. Another possibility is that Risi Competizione enters a Ferrari 499P. This would be a customer entry, and the team has interest in joining the GTP class. So So to be honest, in my opinion, an LMH entry is either going to be coming from Heart of Racing and Aston Martin, or Risi Competizione and Ferrari. To be honest, it was amazing to see the response from you all asking questions for this video, and it was incredibly hard to pick just 2 topics. I'll definitely be continuing this. Your questions could be answered in the next Hypercar Updates video. At the end of each month, I'll put out a community post for you to comment your Hypercar and GTP related questions. So that completes episode 8 of Hypercar Updates from the month of September. Which topic from this episode interested you the most? As always, let me know all your thoughts down in the comments. Thanks for following along. If you want to see more endurance racing content, especially on IMSA and WBC, make sure to hit the subscribe button to the left. Also, check out one of the suggested videos I put to the right of your screen. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.